Welcome to Nordson Select here at Productronica. I'm joined by Carlos Bouras, who is the General Manager globally for Nordson Select.
That is correct. Thank you.
So, Nordson Select, of course, is a combination of the acquisitions of ACE Production Technology and Interselect. So can you tell us a little bit about this new machine you've got behind us, which I presume is a combination of the technologies that you've acquired from both these companies?
Sure. First of all, it's our latest entry to the market. It's a formidable machine because it has 5 stations, so it's really designed for high volume production. The first 2 stations are the fluxing and the heating station, which is fairly typical. And then we have 3 solder stations that in this case have 2 solder pots each station. So with 6 solder pots, you can get some of the volume that previously you couldn't get from either the Interselect product offering or the ACE product offering. We are starting to combine the features to get the best of both worlds. For example, the Fluxer that we have out of the United States is capable of handling high solid contents, and it's easily maintainable, which is not the case with most of the competitors you see in the market.
Yeah, well, that's one of the big problems with selective soldering is the clogging of the nozzle of the Fluxer. So what sort of system do you use to get around that clogging problem?
Well, we don't have the need to cap the Fluxer, which is what some of the other competitors do. It's the internal design of the Fluxer itself, the size of the nozzle plate, are key for it to not clog. And we just see that when customers report they can leave the Fluxer without any attendance or capping for even up to a day without it clogging. So it's the internal technology, the innards of the Fluxer that make the difference.
So you mentioned earlier, Carlos, that you've got dual solder pots in here. Is that, if you're in a high mix environment, you could have lead-free in one and tin lead in the other, or if you're doing high volume, you could have the same alloy in both, for the throughput?
Yeah, it would be pretty unusual to see both types of solder loaded onto the machine at one time. What's more likely to be seen, it's either the same nozzle in both pots to do 2 images at the same time for high volume, or 2 different nozzles to address different areas of a PC board. And what you end up doing is you end up breaking the work between the 6 pots, and you try to balance in the programming so that you can get the maximum efficiency if you're doing high mix. If you're doing many images, then you will program it in a way to do 2 at a time so you get the higher throughput.
So you've obviously acquired 2 very big names in the selective soldering industry, but selective soldering as a technology is growing a lot as, of course, we're moving to much more high mix and environment. What other strengths has the acquisition by Nordson brought to this? I mean, because you're a much bigger organization.
Right, so one of them is the smaller companies typically had a really hard time getting the attention of distributors that had the higher capabilities. Because they carry other Nordson products already, it became more natural to get in with those distributors. So our distribution and support network really grew, and that's one of the advantages that we bring to the table. In addition to that, there's some fairly unique feature sets of our equipment that you typically don't see in the industry. I mentioned about the Fluxer. We also have a big advantage in the way we image the board initially and the way it's programmed. The machine can automatically use the camera, the facial recognition camera, to stitch together a number of images and present to the user the board on the underside, which makes it really easy to program afterwards.
You mentioned, the advantage of having existing Nordson distributors and taking on the Select line. Is that something that you insist that all of your distributors do, or are you flexible on, because some of them might have existing lines that compete? How does that work out?
Well, with some difficulty, of course, but we've been able to work with most of the larger distributors to get our product in there. In some cases, they replace the line that they're carrying, but we can't necessarily insist on a distributor, right? A distributor is a partner, but we can work with them, and we've been able to do that. It's taken some time, but I think our distribution network is really solid in Asia and in Europe. And in the U.S., it remained fairly unchanged in the U.S. and Mexico because we already had it fairly well established.
Well, exciting time for you, Carlos. Congratulations on your first of, I'm sure, many new machines, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.